Welcome to another edition of the M365 Podcast. My today's guest is Craig White, a two double MVP, AI platform lead, governance specialist, and co-host of the Power Platform Panic Room podcast. With over 20 years across Microsoft technologies, from VBA to SharePoint to Microsoft 365, Power Platform, and Copilot Studio, Craig helps organizations scale innovation safely with enabling makers to thrive. So, Craig, you are a massive Lego fan. If Power Platform was a Lego theme, what would it be? Lego Technic because it's structured and engineered, Lego City because everything it's connected and people build it on top. It's Lego Creator because of flexibility, or maybe something completely different.
I think sitting on the fence a little bit. I think it's all three because depending on where you are and depending on what roles you come from, will depend on what type of Lego you might want to build with, right? So I would say if you're working in finance or marketing or sales and you're not used to the Power Platform, you might want to start with something as basic as Duplo, just to build your first very simple app or workflow using a template, just to understand how the bricks kind of formulate together. If I want a bit more experience, I'm already in IT, I've dabbled a bit of code, I know my way Excel around an Excel function. Maybe I want to go for that Lego City thing. All right, cool. I can build something a little bit more advanced and I can understand how all these bricks fit together as part of a wider solution. So I might have an app and some flows and some security roles. So that could be my Lego City. But actually now we're starting to look at, okay, what does a new landscape look like? Code apps as being one of such example where actually we're taking it up a level again. Maybe if we're into that territory, I would say we're into the Technic scene, right? Technic is a lot more complex, um, challenging, and what are the good things that come with it, and also the bad things. So yeah, maybe I think depending on where you are and who you are, might depend on what type of Lego set you would buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Um, so you have worked across VBA, SQL servers, SharePoint, Microsoft 65, and Power Platform. What's been the biggest shift in how organization approach technology over those years?
Um, Biggest shifts, good question. I think I don't even know if it's a shift in some senses. I think people are still the more technology becomes available, the more scared a lot of people get. So maybe there is less shifts for some companies because they're still got a foot in the previous technology and want to keep hold of it. I think if we're talking about mindset shifts, I think it's probably been most recently with artificial intelligence, especially if it's knock-on effect to the Power Platform. Because I'm seeing a lot of companies now that have never embraced the Power Platform. It's been around for 10 years. They've just not touched it, not interested. But there's this thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, Mirko, this thing called agents. Some people might have heard these things called agents, but that's perked up a lot of people's interest, isn't it? So I'm starting to see that mindset shift now of people really needing to embrace AI because they want to maintain a competitive advantage. They want to automate. And actually, that's now starting to lead them into territories of, well, not everything has to be an agent. It could be an app, it could be a flow, it could be this, it could be that. So I'm starting to see a huge mindset shift now. I think previously, maybe akin to that would be the shift from on-premise into cloud.
Mm,
There was a lot of resistance. Oh,
mm,
I don't want to go into the cloud. It's not secure. And over time, people's mindset shifts changed, didn't they? To say, well, actually, we need to embrace the cloud because we can't get away with it. It's the future. And so people had to change the way they worked, the way they thought about technology. Essentially, it's just someone else's bit of kit somewhere else, right? But I maybe see those two are probably the biggest shifts I've seen in the last 20 so years. That makes me sound old, doesn't it? But yeah, probably say those two. That's fair, isn't it?
yeah, before I have started an podcast episode, I scrape all profile data from LinkedIn and so on, and I analyze it with AI. And I see on your profile you heavily focused on governance and enablement.
Yes.
Why do you think so many organizations struggle to balance these two things?
Well, I think in the low code world, it's a bit different across the rest of the stack. And I've said this plenty of times before. If we're going to go to somewhere like SharePoint on-premise, SQL Server, even into the new world, getting an Exchange mailbox, Microsoft Teams, things are turned on by IT, and you are given access to that technology when the company wants you to have access to that technology. So it's a nice uniform way. The difference with the Power Platform is it's all been on by default, and you can't control it. And I think that's where the struggle has been, and the lack of awareness of people not realizing they need to govern this piece of software or bit of kit or service that's on by default. Because companies think it's going to be the same as Teams, and I need to go and turn this on and then send an email to everyone going, "Hello, the Power Platform is now enabled." No, Microsoft did that for you. And I think that's where the huge governance bit comes in, right? Because companies aren't aware that the Power Platform's been around for 10 years now. Can you believe that? 10 years. That's a long time. And actually, lots of people have been using it in your company for 10 years. You just might not realize. And that's why that, yes, we want companies to do all the fun stuff, build apps, build agents, and build flows. But we need to make sure it's done safely. They're not leaking the data around everywhere or being exposed to things they shouldn't. And I think that governance angle really takes on a really interesting pivot now, doesn't it, with AI and the fact that it's even more important than ever.
When companies first adapt Power Platform, what are the warning signs that tell you, oh, this could be become very chaos quickly?
Normally look at their default environment. Is that the one environment in a tenant where everyone's got access to, isn't it? So you can normally have a quick look in there and sort of see if there's loads of apps and loads of flows. And you can kind of get a good read very quickly of, okay, there's lots of activity here that's gone unchecked. And what do we need to do about it, right? So it's normally the first place I look. Power Platform default environment, all their tenant settings in Power Platform Admin Center. You can get a quick read of someone's maturity, I think, just from looking at those two places, I reckon.
So let us think you got a new job tomorrow in a company and they give you a wonderful, completely ungoverned tenant. What's the first
Oh.
you will look at?
What's the first thing I would do? I'd sort the tenant settings out to make sure people should only do what they want to do from a tenant perspective, who can create environments. Um, should we allow our tenant to talk to another tenant using the Power Platform tools? So those high level settings I get done first.
Mm,
And then I probably look to put some data loss prevention in place. One of my favorite subjects of Power Platform governance is how we enable what APIs could be called in an app or a flow or an agent. And unfortunately, I work with lots of companies that have had so much activity. You've got to spend a lot of time unpicking that and what ones are we going to allow, not allow? Are we going to upset people? So if I had a completely greenfield tenant, you could put some policies in place straight away, zero impact on the users because no one will be using it yet. And you put that control in place straight away to say which APIs people can and can't use on a daily basis in their Power Platform solutions. So those are definitely the two things. Unfortunately, I don't come across that scenario much these days of a greenfield tenant. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? But I think the reality is, I think most of us work in the governance space are probably working with customers that have had a lot of years of activity each on picking up a
a governance because they are thinking it's slowing down innovation. Why they have this mindset? Why is this dangerous? And how can we change this mindset?
It's a good question. I think seeing the art of the possible, um, I think that can kind of help sort of switch around a little bit to say, well, look, these tools can be really positive, and we want people to start using and embracing them, just making sure they do it safely, right? I think we can be very quick to kind of switch off and go, no, we're not going to touch any of that stuff. And I think also some people might have a bit more comfort in going to spend more money on an out of the box ready-made solution that might solve one or two business problems, because maybe that's an old school way of doing things where we're going to get a support contract if things go wrong and this, that, and the other. Maybe that ethos of letting your business people actually go and build the solutions. But one of the other key points to try and use to make change that mentality is the people closest to the processes that need automating are the ones already in your business. They're not ones at a third party company that are going to be paid a lot of money to come in and help you. It's your run of the issue, your people on the ground doing the work. So if they can identify a process is rubbish and you give them the tools to go and help them automate it, that I have seen plenty of times before help sort of shift that mindset. So well, actually, if we innovate and if we start small, we do a couple of little use cases and see how we get on, dip our toes in the water, I think that can be really positive to start unlocking, the bigger opportunities that low code has to offer in the Power Platform.
When we think about an environment strategy, how important is this topic?
Huge, I think. Um, and this is where some of that sort of more developer focused experience comes into play again with a maker in your organization that's new to Power Platform. They won't understand the concepts of development, test, and production. People working in IT are quite familiar with those concepts because we've been in there for years. But understanding the different roles of those environments, we're like, this is where we build, this is where we test, this is our separate production version. We do this so we maintain the integrity, we manage change properly. So understanding what an environment strategy should look like is really important. And it's one of the key things that I do with my customers at the moment is helping them understand, okay, well, here's a play space where you can go and just try things out. You need to have a different area for your production solutions that are going to be licensed and supported and sunsetted or whatever else. So that's always one of the first things to kind of, I think, get quite right to help people understand how big the solution is and what kind of best practices they need to follow. And usually that starts with a good environment strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah. I when I think, yeah, there it's yeah. Uh, the DLP policies, well, we say are one of those things people ignore until there's a problem, and I think often it's no, yeah, the leadership will not invest or spend time there. How do you explain this value to the leadership team that they invest or spend time?
Normally, when it comes to trying to rectify a tenant picture, if we're looking at trying to implement DLP, I've learned over the years to try and change my language a little bit. If we're talking to more senior stakeholders, talking in words they might understand. So risk might be one of them. What is
Mm.
the risk of not putting a Power Platform policy in place? And I have seen lots of horrendous examples over the years of what can happen if the Power Platform is left uncontrolled with no policies. People will do stupid stuff. Now, is everyone in your organization going to do stupid stuff? No, because most people are going to be quite sensible with the tools. So the opportunity isn't going to be, it's there, but not many people are going to be silly. But what is the impact if that one person decides to be silly? Well, we could have a big data fine if we've leaked data, or we could be exposing information to people we shouldn't be exposing to. And what is the risk of not mitigating some of these things? Well, I think that's kind of sensibly a good thing of, okay, well, actually, yes, that helps to get the buy-in of let's make sure the platform is secure because we can't control it really because Microsoft have given our employees the keys to the kingdom. We can kind of put some guardrails in places to kind of limit the stupid stuff they can do. So talking their language, I think, can kind of help. If at a more lower level, you can talk a bit more around APIs and payloads and JSON and whatever else, and what a connector actually does and doesn't do, and how to work with it and not work with it, and how to put policy in place. But for more senior stakeholders, I think risk is always a pretty important one to focus on first.
Mm. Reiki, you are often talk about enabling people rather than restrict them. What do successful enablement actually looks like?
Oh, loads. I mean, I don't get this right all the time because I'm still naturally quite technical. But I think trying to take the tech away from it sometimes can be really helpful, and just helping people lead them into understanding the technology themselves and the benefit it can have for them, rather than almost doing that sort of enforcement of, here is a tool, you must go and use it. Trying to bring the people to the technology and helping them understand the benefits of it. Just try and create those internal communities really as well. Like people can share knowledge safely, share the cool things they're doing. I've worked with lots of organizations where we try to kind of say, oh, look, you guys and girls are building some apps and flows. Let's bring you all together. Let's share that experience. Let's kind of go on this sort of journey, if you like, together, and actually enable each other. Because I think sometimes word of mouth can be really, really useful, right? As a tool internally, it's not always about IT have told me to go and use the Power Platform. It might be, your colleague sitting next to you going, "Hey, I just built this awesome thing. I built this app, and when I press this button, it goes and does this." And then the person next to go, "Oh, wow, how did you do that?" So just trying to focus it in and around the people, really. If you can make them understand the benefits, if you can get them semi proficient with using the tools as well, um, that's I think where you can really start seeing that enablement. Right? That's something I love doing is working with customers that I don't build anything for them. I help them to build, even if it's a really simple use case that I've done 1,000 times. It might be a bit boring and not very challenging for me, but it's brand new to someone else. And hearing their wowed and amazement when you show them a Power Automate flow or a gallery in a Canvas app, and understanding how something so small like that can change the way they work and improve stuff, and you're giving them skills to go and build these things themselves the next time. I think that kind of stuff is awesome. I love seeing that sort of stuff. It's good.
Mm. And what separates companies or organizations that succeed with citizen development from from those one who fails from your perspective?
Good question. I think one of the most important parts of be having a sponsor at a more senior level, someone who's really bought into the platform, what it can do, its capabilities. I think if you don't have that support from up top and you're trying to drive it from the lower levels, I think it'd be quite difficult. So I'd say that'd be one of the key things is getting your senior management involved, getting the business sponsors willing to kind of back the program of work to try and improve the way you work. I think that's probably one of the most important things to kind of help succeed. And again, just bringing people with you. Don't enforce it. You have to sort of try and encourage it and help people understand what the benefits are. And these things here aren't here to take the jobs. They're here to kind of help you do your jobs quicker and faster, so you can then focus on some other stuff. But yeah, I think it all starts with that leadership buy-in to say, yeah, we're going to go and do this because that's really going to help. It will filter downwards then.
Yeah, I often talk with companies and here in Germany especially, they say, "Oh, the best thing to have no shadow IT is we don't allow to use Power Platform, Power Pages, and so on." Then I say, "Okay, then you have a shadow IT 0.0 because then it's out of your environment." Um, how can companies when they enable Power Platform for their users, prevent shadow IT.
I think that's quite difficult to prevent shadow IT in the Power Platform
Okay.
because everything is on by default.
Mm.
So whether you like it or not, people will have a dabble and use it because they haven't had to go and log a ticket to say, please, can I have access to the Power Platform? It's there from day one. So I think we have actually on the Panic Room podcast I do with Emma Claire Shaw, we have a little thing at the end about is shadow IT a good or a bad thing? I think in the instance of the Power Platform, I think it can be a good thing because it's identifying people that haven't been told about the Power Platform by anyone in the company. They've just sort of found it in their own day jobs, and they might have come across an article or YouTube video, and they've started to try and mock up a process or an app or a flow to improve how they work.
Oop.
I wouldn't have known about that person's interest in the Power Platform had that sort of element of shadow IT not been there in the first place. So I think in terms of purposes of the Power Platform, because we can't control it fully, actually having that pockets of shadow IT can be quite a good thing because it could be a new champion in my community that can help other people build an app or a flow. it can help me identify areas of the business that might have some challenges that I weren't previously aware of, and what can we do to help, and how can we bring them along. So I don't think we can stop it in terms of Power Platform. It's how do we sort of harness it to kind of make sure we're meeting those objectives that we need to for the company, right?
Mm. And what changes once Power Platform moves from, I say, a small team experiment into enterprise-wide adoption?
Good question. I think it's not something you do overnight. First and foremost, I think you got to, if you planted those seeds, you got to water them, right? So if there's a pocket of people in your organization that are using them, okay, how can they onboard one person each, and how can those people onboard one person each, so they can start again. That word of mouth, I think, can be quite powerful to help it grow. In terms of the actual technology stack, obviously, there's an awful lot you can do at an enterprise level, building a solution that lots of people will end up using, being involved in that whole life cycle of. That can also help with that wider adoption if most of your organization are using those tools on a day-to-day basis. But then you've also got out again that commitment from up top to say, well, if you're going to use the Power Platform across your whole enterprise, you can't just have one person behind the scenes supporting it. Who's going to look after the governance? Who's going to do your solution deployments from dev to test to prod? Who's going to be around to fix things if things break? What if someone logs a ticket about one of your solutions? Who does it go to? So if you're going to focus on the enterprise adoption, you also need enterprise level support under the hood to make sure that the wheels keep turning, right? If things go wrong or things need changing. And that's, I think, sometimes something that people miss. They want to do the huge adoption, but haven't perhaps invested in the underlying support to kind of, be the springboard for that adoption as well.
Yeah, I like the Microsoft champion. S- yeah, I like this from the user perspective. On the leadership side, there it's I call it also buzzword. It's center of excellence.
Yes.
Uh, uh, our organization using COE Toolkit effect, yeah, effectively, or relying on it too much from your perspective?
Oh, that's a very good question, a very topical one, given Microsoft's recent announcement that they're not going to actively add any new updates to the COE toolkit, right? I see a mixture of both, actually, Murky. I see companies that are heavily invested in the COE toolkit. They use a lot of the functionality, not just to kind of understand the activity of their estate, but also to help automate requests when someone has built an app and they want you to register it with your business use case, and then it gets approved or rejected and quarantined. Um, Automated ability to request environments or DLP changes. But I still see a lot of customers using quite a lot of the toolkit quite extensively. Others, I think, are kind of very limited to just wanting to receive the information and just understand the activity. They don't want people to be using parts of the kit because they have to license them. That's usually the kind of key constraint. So I do see a varied mixture. I do think that actually is a very good point you make, that people do rely on it quite a lot. And I think we've sort of had to rely on it quite a lot since, I can't remember exactly when the COE toolkit became a thing. Let's say 2018, 19, I want to say, somewhere around there. And because it's become part of everyone's day-to-day life, if you like, updating it every month, checking all the flows are running, processing the data, we've had that for 7 years at least. So I think people have naturally relied on it as that source of truth because it's built by Microsoft, and therefore it's the all-seeing eye and it's going to be perfect. And I think people rely on that an awful lot. So the news that it's no longer going to be updated, I think maybe hasn't been met very well because people do rely on it. And I try to remind people that actually, whilst the COE toolkit itself isn't going to be updated by the PowerCap team anymore, it's still only using stuff that is fully supported by Microsoft. It's still just using model-driven apps, Power Automate flows, ready available APIs that call the Power Apps, Power Automate, and the Power Platform Admin APIs. There's no kind of voodoo going on in custom code or anything like that. It's all still supported stuff that we can build and extend. So actually, we should be relying on the platform not relying on the toolkit, because the platform underpins the toolkit anyway, right? Ooh, what was that? Edit that one. It's
Um,
all good.
what does the major Power Platform environment looks like for you in 2006?
What is the what? Sorry.
A major Power Platform environment. Uh, who looks it for you?
What does a major environment look like?
Major maturity model.
Oh,
Uh,
mature. What is mature? Oh, good question. That's a great question.
mm,
I think lots of
mm,
healthy solutions being used. And by that I mean, this is just one metric, by the way. I can walk into a company and I can see they've got 10,000 flows. But if only 500 of them are providing value to the business, is what are the other 9,500 doing? So it's a good level of maturity might not necessarily be the volume of assets in the tenant. It'll be how many of them are providing value to the business. And that could just be a value to you and me. We've built a very simple solution, just you and I, that, I don't know, track who's going to go and put the kettle on at tea break. I don't know, something really simple, but it adds value to what we do, right up to solutions that are being used across the organization. So I'd say like a good level of maturity will be how active are these solutions being used? And is the Power Platform that go-to tool to fix a business problem or make something better? Like we've always just kind of gone, I need to do some numbers. I'll open Excel. Good level of maturity might be, I need to automate something or I need to provide a form. I'll go and build a Power App. If that has become that strategical point from up top, that this is the tool set we're going to go and use, and
so
people's natural reaction is to, let's go and use the Power Platform to solve that business problem, maybe that could be a good sign of maturity as well. And people actively involved in the community, talking about the products, helping each other to kind of build cool stuff. I think that might potentially be another good sign as well, right?
yeah, I like deep dive more in metrics and indicators. What, yeah, metrics and indicators tell you the Power Platform adoption strategy. Oh, damn, it's actually working.
Yeah, again, there's always some bits in the toolkit that do some of that stuff as well. Um, I think it might be, let's say, for argument's sake, tracking the number of times an app has been opened and used, tracking the number of conversion rates between an app being opened and a record being created, or something like that. License consumption might be another metric which might become more and more important as more and more of the platform moves into premium capacity. Maybe tracking your license, not just license spend over time, but are people actively using those licenses? Maybe that could be another metric as well. I've worked with companies to build a custom thing in the past of, let's get a list of all the people with a license and let's match that against security compliance or purview reports to say how many people are actually opening these apps that need a license, and go, well, we've got 100 people with a license, 50 people are using an app, therefore 50% difference, blah, blah, blah. That can sometimes be good. There's just good measurable stuff that's tangible, that's easy to see, isn't it? Of like numbers going up or down that people can kind of have a quick eye on and go, yeah, things are being well used or not used, or whatever else, right?
When we look a little bit, yeah, actually, or in the future, which role will AI play in the Power Platform?
I'm hoping it will take away some of the administrative burden. That would be quite nice in terms of, I mean, there's some things that people are doing in the community now with using the new Power Platform inventory API and sort of loading it into different interfaces where people can quickly see, the different tenant settings they've got, app activity, what environments belong to who, how many apps and flows are in those environments. We're already starting to see some AI infused solutions that are probably going to be the next level of the toolkit. It's not going to be flows and data into tables, it's going to be direct windows in. And how can we use MCP servers to go and query these things and make changes? So we haven't got to go and use like the Power Platform admin interface. Maybe we can start a chatbot to say, or an agent, sorry, to say, can you change this setting from A to B? And using an MCP server in the back end, it'll go and make that change and do that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that infusing if you look across all the stuff on YouTube and stuff at the moment, it's always about AI to improve building an app or building a flow or building an agent. We're doing those things quicker. I think AI is just as important to admins because we won't have to do loads of stuff manually. There'll still be a human in the loop and an administrator just checking the settings have worked, but using AI interfaces and tools to speed up the process, I think it's going to be really, really vital in the next couple of years.
And you're also involved in Copilot Studio and AI, I see. Um, what excited you most about where Microsoft is, he- heading with AI?
What I'm most excited about, it's a good question. I just think like the general capabilities of what's possible now versus what wasn't. And I come from working with Copilot Studio now. Some of you might know that it was used to be called Power Virtual Agents, wasn't it? Many years ago. Well, when did that come out? 2019, 20 kind of time. I think it was before COVID. I remember that. So to see what it was then, it's basically just a chat interface with essentially hard coded stuff in the background, back to it, just topics. Seeing all the things it can now do with generative AI, creating documents from natural language. And I think the new thing, I was reading an article the other day about business skills as a preview feature, have been able to save skills in a Dataverse table that agents can then find using the Dataverse MCP server. That's what really excites me. I love skills. I think skills are awesome. Being able to write that kind of custom markdown file to say, go and do something in this format, in this particular way. So we're designing a process in-house at the moment. It will take a requirement for a solution, and we've got different skills that do different roles. So run it through the pre-sale skill and give me a high-level overview of what questions I need to ask. Then run it through an architect skill that will go and present me a lens-tip relationship diagram and understand some of the moving parts we might have to build in the solution. Then there might be a documentation skill that will go and build me some solution documentation once I've finished. So that kind of stuff really excites me about how can we, and we don't necessarily want everything to be 100% generative all the time when the answers are always different. But skills might be that sort of thing of like it generates things, but within a framework, within some consistency, within some sort of standards and templates. I'm really excited to see where skills go, both with Copilot Co-work and how we can then use those in Copilot Studio Agent. So yeah, I do like a couple of good skills. So that's where I'm really excited to sort of see what evolves into next. So I think that could be some really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I found a little bit um, governance or GRC was a little bit, it was somewhere in the darkest room, and companies close it in the dark room, and now they put it back on the stage. So uh, I find this really interesting. Did you think um, in the age of AI governance changed?
I think so. From a take away the tech, I think there needs to be more awareness around data security. I think we perhaps got into a lot of. I take back to an early conversation we had. There was used to be a resistance of moving from on-premise to the cloud when the cloud was first a thing. Now everyone's adopted the cloud. I think we've now adopted some complacency with the cloud. So
Mm.
we got into bad habits of like, well, I'm just going to share this document with everyone. I'll just give you full control of my SharePoint site because I don't really know what the other permissions do. So actually, with AI, I have to take a step back and go, we've got all this data in our tenant across SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, SQL Server, whatever else. And we might have overshared it over the last 10 years and just not really known because we had nothing to expose the risk.
Mm.
AI is now amplifying massively all this potential security flaws. And I think that's the important shift for admins is especially is one, understanding that wider breadth, and two, there's lots of different systems to then go and administer it. If you're looking at a lower level, agent governance is done in Power Platform Admin Center. Agents might look at SharePoint. We might need to apply sensitivity labels to our SharePoint information so we can allow our agent to only consume what's needed. Okay, but we now need to go and look in Purview and start looking at sensitivity labels. Or we want to ingest some new models across Copilot. Okay, well that's the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. If you're in EU or UK, you might have to go enable or disable Anthropic or XAI or whatever else. So I think it's broader strokes in terms of that governance piece for AI now, and almost having to relearn or re-establish some of the underlying principles, such as zero trust, and that ethos of thinking everyone's a hacker and out to get data out of your tenant. I think maybe we've sort of lapsed a little bit on some of those underlying IT principles of security that I think we need to go and relearn or just reassess or reground ourselves in. So when we're looking at that wider security data architecture piece to support AI, we're doing it with the right mindsets of security and principle of least privilege and so on and so forth. So I think AI is wicked. I think it's given admins more to do. And that's the challenge that then comes from most companies at the moment, I think, right? We all want to do the fun stuff, but are we doing it safely? Something we see quite a lot. People on a work laptop, have they got access to ChatGTP? Are they taking work data from their team's environment and sticking it into ChatGTP? Are they leaking company data that's sensitive? Can we lock that down? Are they then going to go and send it to their personal laptop to process? And that's where you need to start thinking about that enablement of people will always find a way. Let's make sure we give companies that right way, make sure it's governed and well admin, but we still need to kind of make sure the text be well adopted in our walls as well, right?
Yeah. You are very active in the Microsoft community, and a lot of my previous guests say, "Oh, Craig might you need to invite." Um, so why you must go in the panic room to record your podcast?
Ooh. I think, well, the name came up from the panic room in terms of Power Platform, and especially now with AI, can be quite scary. There's a lot going on. Like we just talked about, the landscape is massive. You used to be, as a Power Platform administrator, you could get away with creating some environments as your environment strategy, looking after the COE toolkit, and that was your job. And that's not underplaying the value and the importance and the work people were doing. Nowadays, you've got to go across different systems. You've got to manage AI in different places. And I'm not going to lie, it's scary. I think most people I talk to are quite overwhelmed by the rate of change, all the admin, the governance, the capabilities that you now have to do. I find it quite overwhelming on a daily basis. So I can want to imagine what people not in IT must be feeling on right now. And so the idea of the panic room was almost just like a safe space away from the noise, shut everything out, just to kind of talk, digest, share experiences. So that's why we kind of named it the panic room, because I think now more than ever, people need that sort of safe space to vent, share ideas, learn from each other, because we're all trying to figure this out together, right?
Okay, that's good. You feel safe. Your life is
Yeah,
safe.
I hope so. I hope so.
Uh, yeah. What advice would you give someone trying to build a career around Power Platform today?
Um, Stay inquisitive. And what I mean by that is don't shut yourself off. Just think you know it all. Just keep learning. Just keep playing around with things. Keep clicking buttons. Keep working out what things do. I think that's a really important part when things change so rapidly. You've got to try and keep pace as best you can. That's difficult. And some other bit of advice to you to people in this space would be find content creators that you really vibe with. Now, for some people, that might be a blogger if you prefer reading content. Others, that might be a podcast because you prefer listening. Others might be YouTube because you prefer watching. Whatever it is, find that 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 supports what you're trying to learn. If you really like Power Automate, you're coming up for the first time, go and find a Power Automate specialist, a Joe Unwin or a Damien Bird or whatever on YouTube and learn from their content. But you got to stay inquisitive because these things keep changing. So keep trying to learn. I think that's the best way in it because I think if you stand still right now, you might get left behind a little bit, and it's difficult to play catch up.
So I have a look for some quotes on the internet, and I read them, and you say what do you think about this quote? Okay.
Okay.
So governance is isn't about stopping people. It's about helping them to build safe safely at scale.
Agree, 100%. I've always the opinion like governance shouldn't be there to stop people. It should be there to enable people just do it safely. So yeah, 100%.
Citizen developers are no longer optional inside modern organizations.
A what? Sorry, a citizen?
Citizen developers,
No longer optional.
uh,
Um, that's a good question. I'd probably say yeah, they are no longer optional. We can't keep funneling requests into a central team all the time. We've got to give people the skills to go and do this stuff themselves. So yeah, I don't think they're optional anymore. More people need to understand how to use the tech and help build their own answers to business problems. So yeah, I agree.
and the last is one is the best governance framework feel invisible for makers.
Uh, yeah, because the least amount of friction people have to do what they want to do, the better. So if they're, yeah, I completely agree with that. Obviously, there's always got to be some, and there might always be touch points, and you're not going to please everyone, but you want to make these things as easy to get to as possible. If people understand the boundaries and they know the direct route to where they want to get to with least amount of friction, yes, 100%.
Okay, then we jump in the rapid fire round. I think we have some minutes left.
Nice.
Power apps or Power Automate?
Power apps. That's where I started. That's what well, I haven't built a power app for quite some time actually, but yeah, I've always enjoyed power apps. It's been
Most
always been quite
underrated,
fun.
most underrated Power Platform feature.
Most underrated. Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. What is the most underrated feature? Wow, I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that one. What is the most underrated feature? I don't know because depending on where you look, there's always specialists in each individual thing, isn't there? Like I know where to go for power pages or power automate. I think everything has its own place and stature. I don't necessarily know anything's underrated. Maybe some functionalities within them are underrated. Like maybe people don't use subgrids in a model-driven app as much as they should do. Maybe people don't use certain functions in PowerFX like they should do, like the width function. If I'm looking at a lower level in the Canvas apps, that is an underrated feature that saves memory, increases performance, and not a lot of people implement. So if I was to go down a lower level, I'd probably say something like that, like the underlying functions or capabilities that are slept on a little bit, maybe.
The best Lego set you ever buy.
The best Lego. Oh, that is that's the toughest question you've asked me this afternoon because I have quite a lot of Lego sets. The best Lego set I've bought. I got the Black Pearl behind me. That was one of them. Peter Creel's house from Stranger Things. That was a really fun because it moves apart and changes dynamic, which is pretty cool. And I'm probably going to shout out to the Rivendell Lego set from Lord of the Rings. That was part of it was a little bit annoying, but that was one of my most favorite builds of all time. That is a superb piece of Lego architecture. That was fun to put together. Yeah, probably say one of them three. I reckon.
Okay, and the worst one?
The worst one is behind me is the Avengers Tower. Because I love the Avengers films, especially the first phase of films. But there's lots of windows on the tower, and most of that set was just clipping in the glass things, in the plastic glass into the window frames. It was a bit boring, a bit tedious. So even though it looks good now it's finished, and there's lots of cool little Easter eggs in it, the actual build of it, I didn't really enjoy that much, to be honest, which is a shame because it wasn't exactly a cheap Lego set. So, yeah, I'd probably say that was one of my worst. Actually, I didn't enjoy it very much. But there we go.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink during
Coffee.
deployment?
And there's got to be
Coffee.
nice coffee though, not instant coffee. It's got to be nice. It's got to be nice coffee.
One thing Microsoft should publish tomorrow when you can say them and anything, one tool or feature.
What if I could choose a feature? What would I have? Kind of thing.
Yeah, you are free. You can say Microsoft this you have to release tomorrow.
Microsoft had to release tomorrow. Ooh. Um, enabling Claude for the UK and EU without having to worry about data residency and stuff. Everything seems to everyone receives Claude at the moment. Um, it's a bit more of a legal issue for UK and EU using Claude because of where your data is processed and saved. So if that was if I could do one thing tomorrow, I'd say go and sort that out, Microsoft, so the rest of the world can use Claude without any fears of the data side of things. So that's what I would do because Claude's pretty cool. I like Claude, so that's what I would do.
But and yeah, well, my last question is from the session, what is the one thing everyone should take away?
I think touching back on the points we made earlier on, governance shouldn't be there to stop people doing things. Governance should be an enabler to help people do things safely. So if people are thinking about governance in terms of I must lock everything down, I'd urge you to change your mindset a bit and think governance is the first part of enabling your workforce to be more productive. So try to start spinning those things around.
Yeah, and don't buy the adventure towers.
And don't buy the Avengers Tower. Yeah, definitely don't do that. Like, to be fair, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, yeah, it was a bit disappointing, let's put it that way. So if you're gonna buy it, don't spend a lot of money on it. Buy it secondhand or something so it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah, so Craig, this was been an awesome convert. It was so really fun. It's
Yeah,
I
it'd be
really
great fun. Thanks for having me on. We were brilliant.
yeah, thanks you for sharing your experience on governance, scalable power platform AI, and enabling innovation in the right way. This was a nice session. So thank you so much, and have a nice day. And I hope you come back and get a look at your prediction in 6 months again.
Here's hope so. Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's been good fun. We enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye.